Today I'm going to be ranking my favorite James Cameron films. So let's rock it. Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Fuzz. So it's probably no secret to anyone who's been watching this channel for any length of time that I'm a huge James Cameron fan. His name has certainly come up in previous ranking videos that I've done, and he's really just one of my all-time favorite directors. When I first started this channel, one of the things I knew I wanted to do going into it was to be able to occasionally dedicate some videos to specific directors that I hold in high regard. I'm talking about directors whose groundbreaking work in one way or another made a significant impact on my own appreciation of films. I've previously made ranking videos for a couple of my other favorite directors, so I figured with both Avatar films coming to 4K and Blu-ray this week, it definitely seemed like the time was ripe to whip out the big guns and do my own James Cameron ranking. Now, before I get started, I did want to add a quick qualifier here. I am not including a couple films in this ranking. Piranha 2, The Spawning, or Ghosts of the Abyss. With Ghosts of the Abyss, the reason I'm not including it is because it's a documentary and I wasn't really into it. As for Piranha 2, I'm not including it for a couple different reasons. First, I've never seen the film, so I don't want to include a film on a list that I've never actually seen. But also because I've heard that it's not a very good film, and from what I understand, James Cameron actually got fired a couple weeks into this film. So he really didn't have a whole lot to do with the final product that we saw. And because of that, it just didn't seem right to include this in a proper James Cameron ranking. So no Ghosts of the Abyss and no Piranha 2 in this list. I'm only including the 8 main feature films that would be considered the full-on quintessential films by Cameron the auteur, the visionary innovator. But I do have a couple interesting honorable mentions that I'll be including at the end of the list, so make sure you stick around for that. All right, so let's do this. Starting off at number 8, we have the lowest ranked film on my list, Titanic. This one's kind of a trippy film for me because James Cameron's one of my favorite directors, but I gotta be honest, I've never really been that into Titanic. I know people love it. Chicks dig the love story. Personally, I prefer to skip to the point in the film where the Titanic hits the iceberg and the destruction ensues. But honestly, I was never really into this movie that much. And it's the one film of his that I almost never watch. It's a good film. I respect the work he did on it. I respect the film. It's a great film. But it's just, as far as Cameron films go, it's not really my cup of tea compared to his other films. I think part of it is just I'm not a big fan of Leonardo DiCaprio. He's just one of those actors that has always kind of bugged me. So that certainly doesn't help in this regard. I don't mind Kate Winslet. She's great. But I've just never been a big Leonardo fan. So that's why I put it at number 8. I know a lot of people would probably rank this a lot higher, but for me, this is absolutely the lowest ranked Cameron film, and it's the only one that I can honestly say I'm not that crazy about. Coming in at number 7 for me is Avatar: The Way of Water. Great film. I was actually hoping to have my own physical media copy by now. I did pre-order it from Amazon, but for some reason Amazon is delayed in getting these out to some people, and I'm one of those people it's delayed for. Yeah, I was hoping to be able to have it here today to show it off, but I'm not going to be getting it for a few more days. But great film. You can definitely see how the technology had progressed and advanced since the first Avatar film. I saw it in the theater in 3D, and that was the first time I had ever seen either of the Avatar films in 3D. I never got around to seeing the first one in 3D, and I was kicking myself for many years for not having checked out that technology when it was first launched. So I knew that when Avatar 2 came out in theaters, I had to catch 3D this time. And boy, was I blown away by it. It's just truly stunning and almost indescribable how good it actually looked. I can't wait to see what the 4K looks like when I receive it in a few days. I hear the Way of Water 4K disc is absolutely incredible, just a reference quality disc. demo worthy. So I'm really looking forward to seeing for myself how the 4K turned out. Coming in at number 6 for me is the first Avatar film. I did actually get my pre-order on time for this one, and I appreciated that. I actually popped this in last night, and it looks fantastic on 4K. So if you were on the fence about getting this, you know, the 4K is definitely worth it. I will note with this release, you don't get the extended versions. You only get the theatrical versions. So that's the only downside to this one. But I think, what is the extended version? I think it's about, there's a couple extended versions. One I think is about 8 minutes longer, and then the full extended version is like, I think it's like 16 minutes longer than the theatrical version. But yeah, this is, I had to give this one the edge over the sequel, just because it's the OG. It's, when we first saw this film, when it first came out, it was just mind-blowing to so many of us. Now, the Avatar films for me, 1 and 2, are actually about equal for me. They're you know, it's hard to put one over the other for me because they're very, very close. But this was just a groundbreaking film when it came out, and we were all just mesmerized the first time we saw what Cameron had done with this film. So yeah, Avatar 1 at number 6 for me. By the way, if you're enjoying the content on this channel, do me a favor and subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to hit that notification bell as well, so that you'll get notified whenever I'm posting cool videos that you might be interested in. And also don't forget to like the videos as well. It really helps with the channel, with the algorithm. I appreciate your support. So thanks a lot. Moving on to number 5 for me, I chose True Lies. Another great film by Cameron, of course. This is also another one that we desperately need on 4K and that we're supposed to be getting at some point on 4K. This is just a bootleg. I think I got it off of eBay or something. And, you know, it's not the greatest quality, honestly. It's never going to be a replacement, bootlegs, that is, are never going to be a replacement for an actual retail release. So, but it holds me over for now until the 4K discs do come out, which hopefully will be this year or like within the next year or something, along with The Abyss. So yeah, I definitely had to rank this a little higher than the Avatar movies. While I do like the Avatar movies, I just like most of Cameron's other films more. So, and this is certainly one of them. So True Lies at number 5. At number 4, I have to go with The Abyss. Another one we desperately need on 4K. Apparently, Cameron's actually done the restoration, approved it and all that, and we're just waiting for it to be released at some point whenever Disney gets their act together. But and I'm hoping it's supposed to be this year, but I don't know. Well, you know, we've been hearing that for many years, so hopefully we won't have to wait too much longer on this one. This is, of course, DVD, which, you know, I'm not a big fan of, but it's the special extended edition of this film, which is about a half hour longer than the theatrical version. And as far as I'm concerned, the extended version of this film is the only way to go. Especially with the ending of this film, the extended version really, it has some additional context that I think is really important to the film. So I'm hoping that when this comes out on 4K at some point, that it's going to be the extended version. I do have a bootleg Blu-ray of the extended version, which, like my True Lies, just, it doesn't look that great. I mean, it's okay. It's better than nothing, but it doesn't look like 1080p quality at all. This was essentially, from what I understand, this was, I think, taken from a cable TV broadcast in Japan. So it was like an HD broadcast on cable TV of the extended version. And so someone recorded it and made a bootleg disc out of it. And so this is what I've been working with for the last couple years. But really, it's no substitute. We got to have a 4K disc. I would argue that The Abyss is probably one of the most sought after titles on 4K and Blu-ray for physical media collectors. And that's because the film's never even been released officially on Blu-ray. The last thing we got for The Abyss for an official release was this DVD. And that's almost criminal, right? So yeah, I'm very excited to get The Abyss out on 4K, hopefully this year or within the next year or so. But I've always loved this movie. It's a fantastic film. So yeah, The Abyss, number 4. And number 3 for me is Terminator 2. I'm not going to say a whole lot about this. What can you really say? We know the 4K restoration is not that great, but hopefully, maybe someday we'll get something a little better out of them. I don't know. The film is a classic, one of the greatest sci-fi action films of all time. So, yeah, how much can you really say about Terminator 2, right? So, at number 3, Terminator 2 for me. Okay, my top 2 will probably not be a surprise to anyone since these have come up quite a bit on this channel. Number 2 is Terminator, The Terminator. I've mentioned before, I saw this in the theater when it first came out. It was a very impactful experience for me. I have fond memories of seeing this in the theater with my dad. So now I'll be honest, my top 2, they're pretty equal for me. Oh, here, if I'm going to do my equal sign, they're pretty even for me, right? The top 2 are really, some days this can be my first choice. Other days it's the second choice. But really, they're pretty even. I have a hard time choosing one over the other. I like them both about the same. But today, I'll choose Terminator for my number 2 spot. And then, of course, my number 1 is going to be Aliens. I've said this before. This film and The Terminator are my top 2 favorite films of all time in any genre. Not just James Cameron films, not just sci-fi films, but in any genre. This film and The Terminator are my 2 all-time favorite films. This is one of those films that I never get sick of, no matter how many times I see it. I probably watch this one at least 2 or 3 times a year. That's how much I love this film. In fact, I'm such a big fan of this film that I even have my Aliens Bill Paxton Game Over Man t-shirt going today, huh? I love this shirt. So, again, I've talked a lot about this. There's not much more that can really be said, but if you were wondering how I ranked James Cameron's films, now you know. So, Aliens at number 1. And now moving on to a couple honorable mentions that, I thought were worth mentioning. I love Alita, Battle Angel. This, I think, would have been directed by James Cameron if he had not been so wrapped up with the Avatar franchise. James Cameron is a producer on this. He came up with the story. He co-wrote the screenplay. He just didn't have enough time to direct it at the time, so he gave it to his friend Robert Rodriguez, who did an amazing job with this film. I'd really like to actually see us get a sequel at some point, and Rodriguez has said in interviews that he's been talking with James Cameron about this, and that they are at some point going to get together and see if they can come up with some kind of sequel. So I really hope that happens, because this is a really fun movie that I highly recommend if you've never seen it. The other title I wanted to mention was Terminator Dark Fate. I actually really like this movie. Now, of course, it can't hold a candle to the first 2 Terminator films, but I do consider this the only truly legitimate sequel to Terminator 2 Judgment Day. It's the only Terminator sequel since T2 to have not only James Cameron's involvement, but also Linda Hamilton's involvement and Arnold. So, honestly, I think it's the legit sequel, and I don't even really like the other Terminator sequels. I don't own them. I have no interest in them. I watch Terminator 2 and then I go straight to this one. So Tim Miller, the director here, he brought in James Cameron. He wanted his advice. He wanted to consult with him to make sure that he got this film right and delivered a really good Terminator film. And I think he did a great job. From what I understand, James Cameron actually had quite a bit to do with this. And in fact, what I've heard or read is that James Cameron actually did the final edit for this film. I guess he saw the cut that Tim Miller had put together, and he wasn't that crazy about it. So he went into the editing room and kind of took over the process, apparently, and came up with the final version of the film that we see here. I love the new Terminator in this film. I thought they kind of took it to the next level in a way that you would expect with a Terminator movie. Sort of like the way it was when we first saw Robert Patrick as the T-1000. That liquid metal and everything, that was groundbreaking at the time. I wouldn't say this is as groundbreaking by any stretch, but I did think it was a well done movie. I know it didn't get the best reviews or whatever, but I think it's an underrated film. It's not ever going to be anywhere near the level of greatness that Terminator 2 or The Terminator were, but it is a well done film for what it is. And if you go into it with realistic expectations, don't go into it expecting it to be, match James Cameron's peak with these films. If you go into it with a realistic expectation, I think you can have a lot of fun with this film. So if you've never seen it, check it out. And that about wraps it up for my James Cameron ranking. Feel free to leave a comment, leave your thoughts and feedback in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think. Let me know what your ranking is. Which films do you like the most from James Cameron? Leave me your thoughts and feedback because I always enjoy reading your comments. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.